right, I am going to call this to order here. Figure out how to do one thing. All right, it is 6 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting to order, meeting of the Birch Incorporation Association Steering Committee, Thursday, September 18th, 2025. Just a reminder, the meeting is recorded. We've got a microphone there in the middle, so just please speak up. And then anybody online, we don't have any guests in the room yet. I'm sure some folks will come in, but anybody online, if you have questions throughout, don't hesitate to raise your hand or say them in the chat. We'll make sure the questions get answered. I'm going to just briefly go over our statement of purpose again, because we've got some guests. So the statement of purpose as adopted in November 15, 2023, by a vote of everybody who came to the big meeting upstairs. The purpose of BBIA is to explore and, if found feasible, advocate for incorporation to give residents of Birch Bay more direct control over the future of their community. BBIA will accomplish this by creating an inclusive, nonpartisan process to explore the creation through incorporation of a future city of Birch Bay, including but not limited to exploring and proposing city boundaries, form of government, classification of city. 2, promoting a feasibility study and community engagement, soliciting feedback and information sharing regarding the possibility of incorporating Birch Bay into a city. And 3, serving as a liaison with county, state, and boundary review board, and should a feasibility study and sense of Birch Bay residents be positive, to advocate for and advance the incorporation process through a citizen initiative. BBIA will not plan for, discern, or take positions on matters of future city policy, including land use, health and safety regulations, and taxes. Having gone through that, we'll do roll call. Matt Berry here, Vice Chair Lisa Guthrie.
Here.
Treasurer Charmin Burnham.
Here. Secretary
Michael Stringham.
Here.
Research and Feasibility Committee Chair Jonathan Mallahan.
Here.
Jason Polverari. Patrick Allisey, I don't see him here.
Jason's in Germany.
Jason's in Germany. Good, I'm jealous now. Yorkson.
Yeah.
All right. Who's fine?
Here.
Michael Bortkowski.
Here.
Jan Barnes.
Here.
Lisa Black. I don't see her here or online. Pauline Nefsey. I don't see her yet online, though she said she'd be zooming in. I think she's babysitting grandchildren. Holly Hamilton emailed me just a little while ago. She's not gonna be able to make it. And Raymond Chalabi. All right, so we're going to. All right, so we do have a quorum if we need it. Minutes were sent out earlier this week. They're the minutes from the July meeting. The August meeting, we didn't really conduct a meeting. We did the barbecue. So did everyone have a chance to look at those?
Lisa will move approval of the minutes. I'll second.
Tiebreaker goes to Michael.
Okay, then.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the July meeting minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We do have a couple of folks online. There's one in the room now. Is there any public comment? Open session, we're welcome folks to take a few minutes to say whatever they'd like. Raise your hand on the chat if you'd like to do it. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Could you let me know how many are online?
We have 3 online.
Do you want to say something?
No. Well, if at any other point in the meeting, you have a question for our guests or you have a question for a committee, don't hesitate to raise your hand online or chime in here. Just speak up so they can hear you. Committee reports, we'll start with executive. So I did get a feasibility study update from Community Attributes Incorporated, CAI, the company that's doing the feasibility study. The survey got 694 total responses, so I think they beat our survey a couple of years ago by just a little bit. But I mean, 3 or 4 times as many as were collected for the Dash Point, Browns Point. So
Do you know what their goals were?
300.
200 or 300.
Really?
Yeah, they were ecstatic at the
Very
barbecue. We were already over 300 at the date of barbecue, so they were happy.
Yeah. So what I've been told is they're now incorporating survey findings, ongoing discussions with service and data providers into the feasibility study model. They're on track for, still on track for completion before year end. And then I put in the agenda here, just they asked, if we had any questions, if we need anything, is there anything from the committee, any specific questions we'd like to ask them that I can pass along? If anything comes to mind, let me know. Last month, we had the August quarterly barbecue. Most of you were there, so but
So good.
it was a huge success. I think we had about 90 guests based on hamburgers and hot dogs consumed, unless someone here was going back for seconds and thirds, supposed to be accurate. Yeah, thanks to everybody who attended, contributed food, helped out. It was a lot of fun. Next meeting, Thursday, steering committee meeting, Thursday, October 16th, we have Washington State Representatives Alicia Rule and Joe Timmons. And that'll about cover it as far as speakers. We've been able to have the sheriff's deputy or the sheriff, county executive, Birch Bay Water and Sewer. Tonight we'll hear from Stormwater and BBIA and chamber representative from another city. So good job, everyone, lining up good guests the past year. Annual general meeting will be the following month, November 20th. And that will be kind of a summary of everything we've researched and done in the past year, plus the steering committee election. So this will be the third steering committee election. We can have between 7 and 15 members. The link is live now to nominate yourself. I encourage anybody who's interested in this, has some relevant skills, just wants to be a part of it to apply or reapply. It might be a consequential year because we're expecting the feasibility study. So the group's format, priorities, that kind of stuff could all change.
Mhm.
So just think about that when you're considering applying. And just a couple of quick other things. Birch Bay Chamber of Commerce did reach out to see if we wanted to manage the parking lot again for the world record polar bear plunge that's happening on this January 1st. We, for those who might not be aware or don't remember, we handled the parking at sand sculpture competition and rollback weekend, and it was huge. How much did we raise?
In fact, oh gosh, it was 3,000 was our 50%. We got 3,000.
We share that with the chamber.
They got 3,000, we got 3,000.
Yep.
So hey,
I mean, that's a huge deal that they mailing to everybody in Birch Bay, or it's a newspaper insert, postcards. I think that's going to come in handy once we have that
Yep.
feasibility study. But thoughts on that? Do we have people that would want to volunteer? We don't have to answer it right now. We just have to think about it. Michael, volunteer.
experience too. Mike.
Experience.
Yeah.
Volunteer. I think it's a great opportunity. Being that as community members, we all want to participate as well. I think you get to that. We're gonna have to be honest about that parking till 11:30, and then whatever it'll be full anyway.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens after that, so that people can go actually do the plunge, right?
Yeah,
So,
No.
well, I will be.
Good excuse that we're on parking
That's
duty.
great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm one of the judges at the plunge, so I can't be at two places. So this is the whole body along with the family that won't be there. So we definitely need
More volunteers
More
than we had the
volunteers.
last time.
more volunteers.
Well, we wanted the info booth either, so we won't be double
Yeah.
placement, right? Unless, I mean, be a lot of people in Birch Bay that, but
Michael.
yeah.
I'll volunteer.
My
All right.
best.
So,
Thank
with
you.
the
I think we can
caveat
get some
that-
people.
There's people that, like, I'm bringing my family over for that event, so I'll volunteer to do the parking, but I need to
Yeah,
be there for the plunge.
and I think this one, what I bet, what usually happens is you see families putting up their tent and like staking their claim on the beach and things, and so parking starting early, so a couple of shifts, right? And so maybe some of us do the 7 to 9 or 10 or something like that, and then we'd be able to go get our families and get back down to the beach to plunge.
Do we get
Something.
a free parking?
Yeah,
Sure.
volunteers.
You have to
I'll
walk.
have a good reason to stay up until midnight.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. We'll let them know. And
That's
then,
our plan. We're gonna put the RV down there.
and yeah, anybody, just kind of continuing on, anybody interested in the Blaine UJ Swamp Birch Point annexation topic? A couple of other community meetings to be aware of. Birch Bay Community Advisory Committee is meeting on Tuesday, September 30th at 6 p.m. at Birch Bay Bible Church over on Black Bay Road. And then the Whatcom County Council
Mhm.
will be discussing it this Tuesday, September 23rd, 6 p.m.
The BBCAC meeting is being attempted to be moved because Blaine just announced their community open house for that night, and
Mhm.
BBCAC thinks they would rather go up there and listen to what Blaine has to say. So just watch for that date to be announced possibly differently.
And then, is Alex still scheduled to come speak?
No,
No,
Okay.
he wanted to have some like pre-meetings before coming and talk to us, and I
Okay.
just didn't have the time to meet with them.
Oh, okay.
yeah. Right.
All right, that concludes executive committee report. Our next meeting's on Monday, October 6th, 5 p.m. at the Visitor Information Center. Communications Committee.
We did not hold a September meeting, but we did get some work done. Soundbite 6 is in your packet. It's a roadmap to incorporation. So this will go launched on our social media and things here in the next day or so. If you see it, please like it, share it, pass it around. It is really good looking and very informative, and it shows people that nobody here is forcing anything down their neck. We are here, at the top. So there's a lot of steps to go. So future sound bites are being researched now and probably will vary based on the feasibility study coming in the next couple of months, and just kind of key off of that and where the committee goes from there. So HOA outreach, Michael, do you want to go over that and the in-house surveys?
Well, we had one at Hard Review that Michael Matowski set up, and it was really good. It's formative. They had a great venue.
Yeah,
We should have stayed for the party.
we should have let them beat us. We were nice.
They didn't have a facility, so
That's true.
some of us old guys.
Old gals too. We both determined that we'd rather go find facilities than have lunch, so.
I still have a list of HOAs to reach out to, but kind of let live for the summer and haven't really got into yet, so I'll get that back into gear. Did you want me to do the survey?
Yes, go ahead and go on into
Please
the
speak
survey.
up just a little bit, so that folks can't hear you.
At each one of these HOA meetings, and I think we've had 9 of them now, 9 HOA neighborhood meetings. We hand out this survey that tries to get people to rate what's most important to them. And there's room at the bottom if they wanted to add a few different items that we've missed, and some have. I'm sure I want to repeat what those items were, but and so this is, we've to date had 53 responses to that survey. What's the purpose of this survey was to get an idea of what their priorities are, so that any research or sound bites that we do can kind of focus on the top items to them. And it's kind of surprised. We started this process off well over a year ago with the roundtable discussions, where we had a similar set of questions and priorities, and that led to developing this particular survey. And some of the priorities have changed over a year. I think police used to be at the top of the survey, and it's now number 4. Local control of taxes and fees was the highest priority. Fire and EMT response times was second. And surprising to me, the local watershed and flood control. So keep you warm. It's good to have you here. Anyways, you can look at that as as the surveys have come in, the priorities have evolved a little bit, shifted one or two places, but it just gives us a good idea of where the community is setting their priorities.
Could you, so these were collected at HOA presentations, did I understand that?
Yes.
Which HOAs? I'm wondering if there some of these kind of surprise me, so I'm wondering if there's like a demographic that this might be more heavily,
This is evolving and it does change over time and based on which HOA we've been at. I think the heaviest weighted one right now is probably Birch Bay Village, which leads to some of those answers, right? Craig's nodding his head, don't you think?
Yeah, I think there was about a dozen that came out of Birch Bay Village, but frankly, that's in proportion to the population of Birch Bay Village with respect to the
Yeah.
UGA or the boundaries that we're talking about, so it's not out of character there. The difference is that they're all HOAs with the exception of we did a neighborhood meeting. So there are specific HOAs that may have a different opinion than the rest of the community.
And as we take the surveys to the meetings, they're identified at the top and Michael has them. So we can see what neighborhood, how they responded
yeah.
over time. But this is just a cumulative and it's just a good indicator over time what people are thinking about and what services and things they would.
The thing that stood out to me most is that the elementary school is.
So absolutely.
And I'm thinking like, are people with kids less likely to go to HOA meetings? Is that
Yes.
well, maybe that's what we're seeing.
Well,
there,
there's,
so.
because they're often in the evening when they're getting home from school and feeding their kids and doing homework and things like that. And then quite often, they perhaps are renters. They're perhaps not, in the neighborhoods that are as well represented. But we did the Bay Crests, Sea Links, the Village, Idless condos down here. So yeah, a lot of the more senior, but then again, the average age of population here is higher than a traditional city as well, right? So anyway.
It's great data. No, I don't mean that as any.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting.
Yeah, if you're really interested in, but I have all the original surveys with the comments, because there was a point here for comments too. And they're identified by what neighborhood, what HOA, so you can
I'd love to read it.
Analyze
Yeah.
them 6 ways on Sunday.
I mean, I don't know that I had any value, but I'm just interested.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No,
I know, my top one keeps sliding down and it's disappointing, but that's me.
The zip code.
The zip code. I want our own zip code. Okay, so following that, one of the things I put in here, is that if you are going to a neighborhood event or you want to distribute these to your neighbors, let us know because we can send you one you can print yourself. We can print some and get them to you. So if you are having a gathering and you just want to collect some more information from your neighbors or get people thinking about
We
it.
did have them at events. We had them at
Yeah.
any of the social
Yeah.
events that we had a tent at and at the barbecue, so we did get some.
We got some there too, I think 7 or something
Questioning
there.
about whose survey was which.
Yeah. And actually they just had that issue at the village with the town hall. They said,
Yes.
we already did the survey, meaning the CAI survey, but anyway. Speaking of events, we have one more that we're scheduled for, and that is Saturday, October 4th from 10 to 4 at Bay Horizons Park. If you guys can sign up for shifts, if we can get at least 2 people for 3-hour shifts each, and somebody doesn't have to stay there all day long. I will be out of town on that day, as mentioned, so, just if we can, I'll shoot an email out to everybody, and I know you're planning on that
I'll-
one, and
I'll
you're
be
planning
there all
on that
day.
one, and it's where we met Yorkson last year,
Yeah.
so it's
Or
really
go
important
again.
to go to.
Find another York.
You have to find your understudy. Your assignment is to find your, not replacement, but your understudy. We need to bring somebody in, so that was the event we got Yorkson. So anyway, yeah, that's all for communications.
All right, finance committee?
Okay, just prior to that, I'd almost like to suggest that we take this last soundbite that Yorkson did and do some larger posters. Cause I'm thinking now's a good time to be able to put them places.
Well, we for sure need the one the same size.
Yeah.
And of that, and then I think
Just for information that people now will see it.
I would rather wait until we have a little bit of a personally, I would suggest waiting to print too many of them until we have the feasibility study back, or a little bit more indication on if we're transitioning to the advocacy phase.
Okay, rather than let people know what the process would be.
Wouldn't it be
No,
useful?
but we're distributing it now. We're not holding it back, but we're, you know,
I'm thinking in the October event that we're going to do, that would be useful.
Yeah,
yeah,
have it
for
for
sure
that.
for that.
Yeah.
But
So
you're
that's
saying
before the
more of
meeting.
them to put up.
Well, I was saying the
places?
C shop said they would put one up on the front of the C shop, which would people go and say, oh, okay, here we are, and this is what would happen. Or do you think we wanna wait?
Could we do like 2 big ones? Or
A
Oh,
few big ones,
absolutely.
yeah, I just don't wanna spend a bunch of money on it until.
They're
we
not
know
that
our
high,
inventory. Okay,
expensive.
well, you know, they're cheap.
Yeah.
Good.
It's all the same,
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
So just one of the, I think I was waiting for the executive steering committee to approve the roadmap, so I was waiting on that, so it seems that we are.
Everybody's happy with it.
Yeah, I thought I sent that back out, but maybe I missed that, but yeah,
Yes,
we
and
did
I'll
bless
give
it.
you the
high
high
resolution.
resolution.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, as far as the finance and treasury support, just to recap, I know we had the barbecue and people may wonder, well, where did all the money come from? We did do approximately $3,000 for the parking, which was fabulous. And we also did about $250 that came from steering members. Again, I want to acknowledge and thank the steering members for continuing to contribute to help us with this, because our expenses, you know, run around $300 a month just for our mailbox, our rentals and so forth.
Zoom.
And Zoom. And so keeping ahead of that has been really great. But with that being said, we start out then with a beginning balance of $4,534.62. We had 19 cents for dividends. We do have more income coming in. They just weren't deposited in time. We have the C shop as a regular deposit that would be coming in. Then our expenses are roughly $213.13, and that's again our constant contact for email. Our Birch Bay Chamber check was $80, which was their half of our Venmo for the parking. We split it 50-50. Birch Bay Park and Rec check was $20 for the info booth that we'll be doing. Then our mailbox is $25, so expenses were $213. So we do have in our bank account $4,321.68 moving forward.
Good.
Yep.
All right, research and feasibility, Don, you wanna give a?
We didn't meet very productively, but we are gonna try to get a meeting together. Michael put together some research that we'll discuss and kind of determine what to do with it. Really, right now, the Research Feasibility Committee doesn't have a lot to research because the feasibility study is about to come out. So we likely won't have a lot of activity between now and then. And then when it comes out, we'll do some real work to read through it and try to understand it and digest it and share out information about it.
When's the meeting next week? Is it remote?
It will be remote, I can guarantee that, but we don't know what day the meeting will be. My plan was to touch base with the committee members here afterwards and pick a time.
Cool. Do you
Down
wanna
Tuesday.
talk a little bit about what you're gonna be looking at, or?
Well, Michael, can I put you on the spot? I haven't had the chance to look much at it looks like it's comparable data for city revenues.
Yeah, sure, I can do it. One of the issues we had talked about in the communications for sound bites was giving people an understanding of where cities get their revenues from. A lot of people, their perception is it's my property taxes and, you're gonna screw me on property taxes. I just did a very quick evaluation from websites from the 3 cities that are normally in our little sphere, Blaine, Ferndale, and Lynden. And property taxes account for less than 20% of the operating budget. That does not include things like the real estate excise tax, which goes towards capital projects. Or some of the other big ticket items, a lot of the state and federal grants and funds and stuff like that that are predominantly towards the capital budget. So it was a real surprise to me. I kind of thought, well, property taxes probably around half. It was pretty stunning. So that's what we're gonna hope, take a closer look at and see if we can make a soundbite out of that, that helps people understand that property taxes are a small part. When we've been talking to HOAs, they've been kind of surprised by some of the information that we've got, like the sales tax that I think you had the story, Matt, of somebody who lives in the UGA that found out that her sales tax on delivered items was being allocated to Blaine. So like, what? Live in the unincorporated county, and so it's things like that, and the sales tax is actually far greater than property tax, and it has changed an awful lot in 10 years because of what we affectionately call, I think, the Amazon tax, of the tax is attributed to where the product is delivered rather than what store it was bought in, those kind of things. So with a lot more home deliveries, sales tax becomes a lot more directed to the place that it ends up in rather than the place it was shipped from. So that's the kind of stuff that I think would be useful, and I've sent that spreadsheet calculation. We discussed it at the executive committee, and then I sent it on to the research committee to have a look at, make sure I haven't gone crazy somewhere. The information is valid.
I suspect that's not the conclusion we're gonna arrive at, that you've lost it. But we'll do our due diligence.
Well, you could do a separate piece on it.
Just a quick note, we do have 7 people on now, including Pauline. So Pauline, if you have any questions for our speakers, don't hesitate to raise your hand. Same with all the guests. We're right on time. What I'm kind of thinking, we do have 2 guests tonight, and we've got an hour left in the meeting. So we can try to spend about half an hour with each of them, asking questions, getting their advice. First, we have Gary Viss, Director of the Lynden Chamber of Commerce, member of the Lynden City Council. Gary has helped build one of the strongest city chamber partnerships in the county. He's here to share how that relationship supports both businesses and the community, as well as considerations regarding incorporation. So thanks, Gary, for coming.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, and I guess if you want to introduce yourself more than that, tell us what we need to know, concerns, opportunities for partnership. I'll turn it over to you.
So a little bit about myself. As you mentioned, I'm on the Lynden City Council. Was elected 2 years ago, or 2024, I came on again. However, I had served for 10 years prior to that. I first got on the city council in '97. I was 27 at the time. Little did I know what I was in for. No, it was a great educational project. At that time, I was employed by someone you may all know, Adeline Derry. I've spent 20 years there. The opportunity at the chamber came up. I thought, I'm sick of getting kicked by cows and delivering milk in the snow. So maybe we'll take a look at an office job. So I applied, I got it. Have really enjoyed it. Have learned a lot along the journey about nonprofits, chambers, especially, of course. One thing I want to say starting off is you have a very, very excellent chamber
We
here
do.
in Birch Bay.
Yeah.
Their team is something, and just the sheer amount of events they put on, that is impressive, because it is not easy to put on events. One of the things I've learned, of course, one of the reasons I'm here is how important that partnership between a chamber and a city is. I had a conversation not too long ago with somebody, and they said, well, you can't change zoning. You're just a chamber. And I said, you're absolutely right. That's why we've got to have a strong partnership with the city. Now that helped that I was on the city council because I knew the players. But your chamber will be the same. They're going to know who's involved, should that time come. Ours goes back, the partnership goes back to when the chamber was formed in 1928. And it was because of some of the council members decided back then, hey, maybe we ought to form a little business partnership so they can have a say in what's going on. We're growing. We're almost 500 people now. No, I don't know. It wasn't much higher than that. And that's how it started. And then the chamber or the city started funding us in the early eighties. Taking a portion of sales tax and reinvesting it into the chamber because of the work we do. We've continued that relationship. Of course, I, like anybody else, like to go to the city and say, we need a little bit of a raise or need some more money. We tried to, even when I got back on, we had a laid out pattern of what we were gonna do, increases tied to certain things. It's been really wonderful. We're able to do things that maybe the city can't. For one thing, some of you may know, the city can put a bond or levy anything up. They really can't do anything other than education. They can't do advocacy, which I've always found strange because it's like, hey, I'm gonna put this new, we're gonna put a bond forward for a new fire truck. Well, of course I want you to vote for it because otherwise I wouldn't put it before you. But you're not allowed to do that. You can't spend taxpayer dollars. We can. Now, that's not using city money. But we as individuals can go, hey, you know what? We talked about it. Our board met, talked about it. We think this is a good idea. There's been a few times where I've gone in ahead of time on a policy or a zoning matter and said, I don't know, this might not work the way we will. So we're another ear that's out there. One of the things I have found, we had a city council member that I didn't take his seat, but he stepped down at the same time. And he would call me council member number 8. Well, council member number 8, what are you hearing in the streets? Because there is a hesitancy on a lot of people's part to talk to or interact with elected officials, or in our case, city staff, because they're worried they're gonna irritate somebody, or I'm gonna make them mad and then they're gonna wanna do anything. And so I spend a lot of time going, no. That's not gonna be a thing, but what's your question? Or what's your statement? What are you concerned about? And then I can relay that back. In a sometimes anonymous way, a lot of times I'll say, can I share your name? Because it's important to have a name behind something. So we've done a lot of that. Probably our biggest task at the chamber is building community. Our little mantra is we build stronger businesses by building stronger community. And I think that played out in large part through COVID. Now I was in Hawaii when all that started, oddly enough. So I spent a lot of my vacation on a computer. But what we found out was, other than there was a few businesses that right away closed their doors. And those are what I would call the hobby businesses. It really wasn't a primary source of income. It was something they were doing kind of as a sideline or a hobby. They closed immediately. We never lost one restaurant or one other business during the pandemic, or however you want to phrase it, which I am very proud of. The other time I saw it really come through was during the floods. Ferndale got hit a little bit. Sumas and Everson were wiped out. I happened to get up that morning and call our mayor, who I've had a great relationship for over 30 years. I said, hey, we got any problems in town? And no, I think we're looking okay, because we're at 108 feet, so we're kind of high. So our little joke is, if it gets to us and it's a problem, there's a problem everywhere else. But we talked about it. Okay, man, yeah, if we have to do something, we can put in things in place. I identified a few churches in the area and a couple buildings. Yeah, if we got to put people in somewhere, maybe we can do that. Half an hour later, he calls me back and he goes, you talked to those churches yet? I said, no, we didn't really talk about it. I was going to talk to the churches. He says, we got problems. And it was one of our senior living places was, they're kind of down in the valley. They're not technically in the floodplain, but by gosh, they are close. And the water was starting to come up. So we as a chamber were able to make contact. We had a church that was already saying, hey, if you think you need to get out of the house for a while, come to us, talk to them. Okay, we'll take some people. Then we got a call from Whatcom County Emergency Management. Hey, how many people can they take? And I'm like, well, what are we talking here? Well, we gotta get people out of Sumas. Okay, so I talked to them. I think that night we put 120 in there, and then the next day we put about 150 in another church. And we had a third church ready on standby. The really wonderful thing for me was I had put out on our social media, hey, people may need some clothes or pillows or something, because you're fleeing your home, and I didn't know what they need. The response was incredible. I often made the joke, I think every Dutchman in London decided to clean out their closets. No. But I walked into one of the churches, North County Christ the King, which is quite a large facility, and there was people all over. They were eating, the food was taken care of. I had restaurants contacting me. Hey, we can do dinner. How many nights you need us to do dinner? Hey, we're bringing lunch sandwiches for everybody. You think we ought to have hot soup with that? I'm always a fan of hot soup, pretty smart. And I walked into this sanctuary, and there was a stack of pillows as high as this ceiling. And I had two thoughts. My first one was, oh, I really want to jump into that thing. Wanted to do this since I was a kid. I thought better of that. And then the second one was, this is what it means to be a community. It isn't, and some of you may read what I put out, but I always say a city is just a boundary. It's just a line on a map that somebody decided to go, okay, here we go. And then the next year it's like, oh, we'll add a little more over here. A community is when everything goes to heck in a handbasket and the people come together and they take care of each other. That's community. I think you have that in Birch Bay, big time, because we've had, natural disasters in the Bay. I mean, definitely, if you hear king tide, winds, epic rain, everybody goes, oh no, what is all this? Or what's the other one? Pineapple Express. Yeah, you don't need to say that. River, what's it?
Atmosphere.
Atmosphere. I've never seen your one.
We had Randy Small at Chamber Luncheon today.
Yeah. Randy lives right down the road from me, so it's great having him there. But that's what community is, right? It's people caring about each other, and that's where the chamber can play such an important role. You cannot make those connections when you're a city. Again, at times it seems like a faceless entity. You never really, yeah, sure, I know somebody there, but do I know them? But when you get people caring about each other is when it all kicks in, and that's what we try to do. Through our events, through just some of our social media, through please, hey, we got this going on, make a fundraiser here. Oh, this poor person got hurt in an accident. They're gonna need some financial help. Can we do something here? That's where the chamber plays its biggest role. And again, your chamber does such a fabulous job on so many levels. It's incredible. But if any of you got any questions, I can talk all day about how great chamber is.
Should we start with, we've got Dorley Booth and Molly Ernst from our chamber here, and then I think Danielle's online. Do you have any questions right off the bat? Yes.
Thank you for coming, and I do know I've been with the chamber now for 10 years.
Oh, wonderful.
And we're just getting more fabulous all the time. It's amazing. And we have our executive director, she's amazing, and Sasha's amazing.
Yes.
And we just worried all the time that we're gonna lose that. But we're trying to keep them happy, right? Anyway, I was kind of wondering, I don't think people really understand how a chamber is financed. And is it lodging taxes within Lynden for you?
So we're very blessed in Lynden to have that long-term relationship. So we do a split now of general fund taxes, which is your property tax, sales tax, and utility taxes is what goes into a general fund. So a portion of ours comes out of there, a portion of ours comes out of LTAC or the lodging tax. We have over the years, we put in a request to the city for a certain amount of lodging tax, but we know, the mayor knows, all the council knows, that number could fluctuate every year, depending on what they want to do.
And during COVID.
Yeah, well, that was, we were very, very fortunate during COVID in that we always tried to budget conservatively. So we had cash stashed in the city's LTAC fund. That's always important because you never know what's going to come up. It could be, so I've been doing this, I've been working in Walker County long enough and familiar with the Canadian market that, hey, I can't control exchange rates. It's out of my control. I can't control a 9/11 when all of a sudden the border clamps down.
Mhm.
I can't control COVID, which was a huge one, right? So I always, unfortunately, the council members, also recognize that it's important to keep a stash of cash. So we do a mix. Then we have membership dues. Ours are more than what Birch Bay's are. Bellingham's are much more than what ours is. And it all depends on who you're gonna tap into and who you're gonna talk to. Then there are the events itself. Events are tricky because it relies so much on sponsorship. And sponsorship relies on a strong economy. Where businesses are able to say, "Oh, yeah, that's something we wanna do," versus it's kind of tight, I don't know if we can do it much. You can still pull it off, but it takes money, and we're able to use those funds, not just to put on the event, but like, we own a building, I gotta pay taxes, property taxes, I gotta keep the lights on, I gotta pay the gas bill, I gotta, everything a homeowner or anybody else needs to do, we gotta do as an entity. And get everybody paycheck at the end of the day, so that we leverage our events to the best of our ability. And then you have what's called non-dues revenue. Some chambers, that's a very big thing. Ours is not as much. One of the things we do is and this was started in the 90s when Dulles Fair opened up, is we want a shop local program. We call it Cashback. We run it through right now, most of it goes through the private schools, Lynden Christian being the main one. And that's where our merchants give a 5% discount. 4% of that goes back to the school, 1% comes into the chamber. Right now, I think last year we did about $1.7 million in that, so we were able to get $17,000. We do a welcome basket program where we have, now we only have one, we used to have two, ladies in authentic Dutch coffee. They go and visit new people in the community when we find out who they are, and if they're interested, we just don't go cold on. But they sit down with them, and we actually have a list. What do you want to tell the mayor and city council? What's some of your favorite stores? What do you find attractive for Lynden? Where do you think we could improve? Kind of funny when you have new people, where do you think we can improve? Sometimes you read them and think, we're never gonna do that. But that also brings in revenue, and that's probably last year, it was probably, well, I'll say $8,000 to $10,000, somewhere in there. Our budget is a little over $400,000 a year. And we operate on 2.5 employees. So that's kind of how we.
A couple of follow-ups. Do you
Yes,
have HOAs or VRBOs, too many in the city, or?
We have a few VRBOs, not a tremendous amount. We have a couple HOAs, one of them being Homestead, which you've probably all. Yeah. But then again, okay, kicking back and tying it in, community. Few folks just a couple weeks ago said, well, I got a mower and I got a tractor and I got a weed eater. If you drive by that golf course, it doesn't look like a golf course, but it's all mowed. It's all mowed.
Wow.
And it's all volunteers with all their own machinery and equipment, and time and energy. We always, as a chamber, we're looking for time, talent, or treasure, and everybody has one of those.
Wow. How did you get your building?
So if you go into downtown Lynden, we have our building is an old Bellingham Federal Bank built in 72, big old brick thing. It's the most out of place building in downtown Lynden. But it has a giant black walnut tree that Phoebe Judson, the lady that named Lynden, pioneer, planted. And there was a few folks that decided that tree needed to stay. So through a series of donations and a contract with People's Bank, a loan, we got a loan, we formed a nonprofit called the Our Town Foundation. And so technically the owner of our building is the Our Town Foundation. And paid a traditional note. We got some of that money that we get from the city, helps us pay the rent, which we have slowly paying back. Now, there was one time a few years ago, I needed a new roof, I needed a new entryway. So we refinanced the building, got really good interest rates at that time. Because it was $45,000 to redo the roof, $12,000 to do the entryway. Last year I spent 20-some thousand dollars on 2 bathrooms, which is like killing me.
Yeah.
But we ran new pipe all the way to the sewer system. But this year we were able to very early pay off our building.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
we now own our,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, now that doesn't help me pay the bills tomorrow, but I own them.
Feels good.
Thank you, because we're looking at some of those very things, and it just, you have to take a really deep breath.
Yeah, you do, especially now, you know, we first made the purchase in 2004. So a completely different time, and we had friendly seller, somebody that wanted to do something, so he took the price down. But that's part of the reason we formed the foundation, is as a chamber, we're a 501c6, I believe, which is a membership organization. The foundation is a 501c3.
Yep.
So that's completely tax deductible. And we have over the years run quite a bit of money that we've used for community assets. Some of you are familiar with our lights when you go through town, like the entryway. We got, all that was fundraised and went through the foundation to raise that money. So it's, you know, we've continued to do so, do other things for community groups. Sometimes we act as somebody will come to us and say, so I want to give X amount of money to this group, but I don't want them to know who's doing it. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'll be your front.
Who does your beautiful flower trees?
Mm.
Does the city do that?
No, well, sort of. They help fund our downtown business association, so that's specific to that downtown core. And they hire a gardener, for lack of a better term, who takes care, who, you know, if it's hot, she's out there twice a day.
They're gorgeous.
But usually every day, waters them. We get the water. Some of you have probably heard Lynden baskets. That's what those big things are named, because we had Van Wingerdens. You know, we got Van Wingerdens right out by us too. That's Peace Portal Mike's brother owns Pacific Growers on Markworth Road.
Okay.
So they do that. We have Vandergiesen Nursery. They do a lot of the baskets that hang from
They're
the
just gorgeous.
businesses. Yeah, and we, you know, they get paid for their baskets. They give a volume discount, but
Mhm.
and then yeah, they hire a gardener, and they got we help them acquire a tractor with a big old water tank on it. And so, you know, they do get a little bit of fertilizer every day. That's
Oh,
why
wow.
they get.
Thank you so much.
You're
I have a
very
quick question.
Yes.
Can you tell us the history of how you guys got the restrooms in downtown Lynden?
Yeah, sure. That was, so when I got hired, I had three tasks, one of which was you gotta figure out what to do with this restroom. Originally, there was a plan to have it by us, and it would have been the chamber. Having worked a little bit with the Northwest Washington Fair, I do a lot more with them now, but and knowing public restrooms, I'm like, yeah, we don't want that thing next to our building, because then it becomes our responsibility. So it's the city's. That was paid for with lodging tax. Back then, we did not, or we didn't get a lot of lodging tax. We just tried to build that fund up. And if you're ever able to do that, that is a good idea, because you never know what's gonna come your way. So say the polar bear, you know, world's record polar bear swim comes up, and there's some additional expenses with that. You then have a fund you can turn to that you can go, okay, we need another $30,000 to pull off this event, because it's all one-time expenses for something. So we spent, I'm gonna say $340,000 on those things. And then annually, the LTAC pays $25,000 to $35,000 toward the operation of that. Yeah, operations and maintenance. People do not treat public restrooms.
Yes, I
like-
do not. I've driven by them a
Yeah.
million times. I've never had to use one. So how many stalls do you have in them? And then does the city public works or the city?
Right now, it
Or
used to be the
maintain?
city public works. Right now, we have the city parks
Okay.
taking care of it. But that was a budgeting move on the part of the city. And if something really breaks and we need the public works background or skill set, then, oh yeah, obviously, well, they'll come in and do it. There's 2 urinals in the men and 2 stalls and 4 stalls in the women. And then we used hand blowers, air blowers instead of any paper towel. And it's concrete sink. And then we used brick in the Dutch architecture, sort of. It's close. And that was one, we wanted to look good, and two, it's durable. Brick is very, very durable, and then it's had several coatings of anti-graffiti spray on there. We have, our youth seem to be infatuated with a certain part of the male anatomy that they like to spray on everything. So it's important to have that. Oh, yeah. They did one on our old water plant, only they had to do it upside down. One of the public works guys goes, see? And I thought for the life of me, it was the space shuttle. Why did they put the space shuttle up there? He goes, turn your head upside down. Oh heavens. But that's how we paid for it. It was all hotel motel tax.
Okay. How did it take you to raise the money for it?
It was, oh, I don't know. We receive in, I'm gonna say 175,000 a year. Roughly, but like I said, we weren't spending much of that at all at that time, so that was, I mean. It was there in the account to
Okay.
use, but that probably built up over 4 or 5 years.
Question.
Yes, sir.
The money you save, do you
Yeah.
just put it in the bank or you generate interest?
We generally it goes into our, so we're very seasonal in our income. We bill annually at the first of the year, January, or we'll start in, the first billing will go out in November, we'll receive some of that, then January, another set of billing goes out, we'll receive that, and then that just sits in the bank. As income is coming in, we have a money market account, and when we reach a certain dollar amount, I'll say between $40,000 and $50,000, we move it into a CD if we feel like that's a good idea.
Mhm.
One of the, like now, we don't have too much in a CD, because given the economy, I wanna be liquid.
Mhm.
I wanna have access to that cash if I need to, because I wanna get paid.
Mhm.
I love my job, but I got bills to pay too.
I think Charmin had a question.
You mentioned that when the chamber receives money from the city. By becoming a city, does the chamber lose anything? Do they lose grant
chamber?
opportunity? If we become a city, will our chamber lose opportunities of grants they get now because they're unincorporated or?
I don't know specifically their income structure. I do know you receive a lot of that LTAC.
Yes, county.
And what did you say the LTAC amount you thought it was estimated?
We have short-term rental data from a couple of years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
It's a long story, but it was approximately 9 million in gross revenue for the 308 short-term rentals
So
in
that'd
the
be about
UGN time.
180,000.
And then I think 3% transient occupancy tax, that's like 270,000 that we're putting into LTAC.
Yeah.
We get less than that.
So as a city, you'll be able to take 1% and then you'll be able to take another percent. And then the 1% is an actual additional tax. The other percent is actually a kickback from the state that goes into the LTAC.
We
So
also have Birch Bay State Park.
do you receive tax money from
Yeah.
them? No.
Well, the county does,
That's
but
not
Yeah.
county, yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting to see how that would play out, the state park, because you should. It's like, we've got the Lynden KOA, the hotels, some of where it can get a little tricky is the timeshares.
Yeah,
Because depending on how long they have, they could actually exceed the amount of time where you would be able to charge. But that's for them to figure out.
How many-
Next to the pool comes.
sorry, how many hotel rooms in Lynden?
We're just about 100. We
Yeah,
might be just a
and-
touch over.
But
Not
that's
many.
not many. I mean, and that just came up, right?
Well,
The Inn and Lynden and.
technically, we got 3. We got the little one along the guide when you come.
Windmill.
If you come up the windmill. When people call and say, hey, we wanted to stay in the windmill. I say, okay. And they say, well, is that a good place to stay? That would be our budget accommodation. Oh, I'm picking up what you're laying down. So there's people there more than one night, yes.
We have a question, I think it's from Danielle with the chamber, just raised her hand. Are
Hi,
you there?
guys. Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to add that currently this year we got $230,000 from Whatcom County lodging tax, plus an additional $25,000 to do the polar bear plunge Guinness World Record. I believe if Birch Bay incorporates that there may be some time leeway with that fund, but probably eventually it would go away and we'd need to be funded by the city of Birch Bay lodging tax to continue to do what we do. And most of that 230,000 goes towards operations. So that doesn't actually pay for our event. It just pays for the operations of the visitor center, employees, rental stuff, insurance, those kinds of things.
Perfect. Do you have any questions while we've got you online?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Gary.
Yeah, you betcha. Good to hear you again.
I did have a couple of questions from other chamber
Please.
members. It kind of boiled down to two things. One is, what kind of help do you get from the city for holding these events? Do they share any of the duties? And then the second one, maybe would be best asked, kind of telling a story like the chamber has found it sometimes difficult communicating with the county the importance of some of our events, like the Derby Day parade that we do in the summertime.
Yes.
And so like when the chamber goes to them and says, hey, we want a permit to do this
Yes.
parade, there's no leeway and sometimes it's cost prohibitive. What is it like going to the city of Lynden and saying, we want to do this
For me?
event? Yeah, well, it's a unique situation because you're on the council.
But, well, yeah, but even before that, in the interim, and it's always been the same way. So most of the time, if a group or organization wanted to get a event permit from the city, they got a special event permit you got to fill out, you fill in all that stuff. Because our events usually involve closing the main thoroughfare, Front Street, and impacting Grover Street, Main Street,
Yeah.
and some of the stride streets. Our council years ago made the decision that if you're going to close that street, you need to come to the full council. So we submit one whole package I'll do it probably in February, and it'll list everything I need. Here's the streets I need, here's where I need barricades, here's where I need help from police on this, and bless them. We have never had to pay a bloody thing for anything of that.
For the barricades,
No.
for the extra police,
Nothing.
nothing.
Now, on the flip side, it's like, hey guys, well, how's the barricades looking? Oh man, we gotta get these things painted. All right, I'm not doing anything in January, so I'll go down and grab the paintbrush and we'll paint a bunch of barricades. Or maybe, I'll buy something. Well, for instance, the trailer that all are type 1, those are the long barricades, sit on, that's our trailer. It's like, well, why don't we haul them on our trailer? That way you guys can free up yours you don't gotta constantly go on and off, on and off, on and off. So that was our contribution to the cause. Now, even if I wasn't on the chamber, before I got hired on the chamber and I was on the council, why that was important to me, because I knew that entity was the one that had to build community. And I will point to, in your case, and using the county, beating up on the county maybe a little bit. No offense.
No.
Not Storm, they're great. You really need to make a connection with the elected officials. And you gotta tell their story to them, and you gotta explain that, when COVID hit and you needed somebody to do a lot of the grunt work and you didn't know who to go to, you used us. And we can only do that when we build community. So it makes no sense for us to pay you to use this park because the community is the one that's paying for that park. We're just making a higher and better use of it for this day to bring people together. Show off your amenity. Let them see where their tax dollars are being spent. Oh, look at this. Isn't this a wonderful? I didn't know they did this. So we're really, really fortunate. Yeah. And they continue to do it. I often talk about how before an event starts, I get phone calls from our public works crew or the fire department or police, and they're saying, hey, so any changes? Do we got to figure out anything? Nope. So for our lighted parade, I'll probably have 10 officers out there managing traffic. Same thing for Farmers Day. Raspberry Festival, they'll come and walk through. The fire department guys will come and walk through. Just keep an eye on things, see what's going on. So that part's wonderful.
Yeah, wow.
So I got no complaints.
Any other questions from the group or people online? I think that about covers it. We had a whole list of questions, but you answered so many of them.
Sorry.
No,
that's great.
absolutely perfect.
I am some professional BS. Come from a long line. I want to close with this. Anything you can do to support your chamber is going to be multiplied. We add that multiplication factor. So if you're having an event and you give Danielle $1,000, she can turn that into 4. And then the manpower, the labor. Some of you may have gone to our city park and seen the Million Smiles Playground. That was a community build. I was on the chamber when we did that. That is currently insured at about a replacement value of $3 million. We did it for $270,000. We used 2,000 volunteers, and we did it, put in over $12,000 of volunteer time. And that's what your chamber can bring to you, that very few other organizations can.
For the polar bear plunge, we need 150 volunteers, Sasha told us today.
What are you doing on the first?
I don't go cold water, man. I might come, we actually might come.
But you can volunteer.
Yeah, we might actually might come.
You have to be in charge of volunteers. I'm a volunteer,
Oh,
so I'm not.
very good.
But I have to be in charge of like 50 people.
Oh, man,
How do you do that? We're gonna find
very
out.
good.
In the water, you're gonna be in charge of 50 people.
No, on the beach,
Yeah.
and they're
I'll
little.
be in charge of the
If
hot
you're a
tub.
plunger, you can't be a
Yeah.
volunteer.
Yeah,
You're-
you can do
Well,
that. Well,
Thank you so much
yeah,
for coming in.
thanks, Gary.
No, thank you. I wish I stayed for you.
Well, that's
I gotta head back home. And just so I make myself clear, I pick on the county officials every once in a while. I think we all do. Heck, I pick on the city council at times. The county staff is some of the hardest working people I have ever run into. And I've been to a lot of different communities, seen how their crews work, seen what they do. They really do have a what can we do spirit about them. Sometimes they don't always have the funding to do it, and sometimes they don't get that message from those in charge of policy. So we can keep those local connections, and anyway, have fun.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
And keep at it, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Thank you so much. Right on time. We're also joined by Kraig, Stormwater Program Manager with Whatcom County, and you'll have to explain the relationship with BB Warm, but Kraig has overseen stormwater, watershed management for Birch Bay for years, and we're hoping you'll help us understand BB Warm's role today and what it could mean if Birch Bay chooses to incorporate.
Well, I'm not as exciting as the last. Let's start with that. Just a background, if you're not familiar with BB Warm, it started back in 2006, really, or maybe even before. I started working with the program. It really wasn't a program at the time, in about 2007. And so, we initiated a fee, which is, collected as part of your annual or semi-annual tax payment. And it's based on impervious surface. And the reason that it was brought about was that a comprehensive stormwater plan was done in 2005 and adopted in 2006. And it identified all kinds of problems. And so the council decided to put in a stormwater district, and they used the subflood zone as the mechanism, and that is part of the countywide flood zone district, which we have. And so the funding is actually countywide flood money that we use. And we typically build the capital projects and hand them over to the county to take care of. And so BB Warm actually does planning. We go out and do sub-watershed master plans to kind of get better detail on what's going on in the neighborhoods. We've done 3 out here that covered all the coastline. We did another one in 2003, kind of following all the flooding we had in Birch Bay Village when we had that big storm in 2001. And that was a drainage study that basically looked at all that area that contributes to Birch Bay Village and also down Shin Tapper. And so those studies then become the basis for our projects that we do. We identify maintenance needs in the neighborhoods. We identify small works projects that need to be done and also capital projects. We've done about a capital project a year for at least the last 12 or 14 years. We've spent over $5 million to date. I'm just doing this off my head, so I could be wrong, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood. And as you all know, we did a raise of the rates last year. We did not raise them for 15 years, which probably wasn't a good idea. But again, part of the problem is over the last 4 or 5 years with inflation, our costs really jumped. And so we just couldn't make the progress that, the community wanted, and that we try to, comply with at least a project a year. We've got 20 years to go on them. So there's a lot of work out here. So Matt asked me about, well, what if we became a city out here? What would that mean? What would BB Warm do? Would they stay or not? And I'm not here to say what the council would do. I don't know what they'd say. What I did do is take a little look into the RCWs that established BB Warm as a subflood zone. And it doesn't prohibit a city from having a subflood zone, as a part of it. And again, if you think of the district that we have, it takes in the watershed. It goes all the way to Ferndale. And then Birch Point, which isn't exactly in the watershed, was brought in as a area that needed help as well, because they had a lot of slides on the upper banks out there. So and we've done several projects out there. So they're still part of this district. How you would work with us if you became a city, there's a lot of details to work out. If you incorporate areas that we built projects in, there would probably be some discussion about how you take it over. And if you're familiar with any of the annexation rules that we have, actually interlocal agreements with each of the cities, when they take in a portion of their urban growth boundary, we look at what have we built out there, and there's basically an amortization requirement that if it's less than 10 years old, then there would be some sort of payback. Now, the other thing is we have a lot of infrastructure that we've built, a lot of it in the the short-term urban growth boundary, or whatever that, whatever we call it down Birch Bay, that's not the long-term. What do we call it?
UGA reserve or just UGA?
Just the UGA,
Yeah.
which is the developable part. It's the one with the higher zoning densities. So if there's, infrastructure in that, then there would be some requirement if you wanted to take it over, and how old it was, what do we have to do with it. There's also, I didn't think about this till just now, but the berm, it was a pretty expensive project. And one of the things that BB Warm did, based on having done all the sub-watershed plans, was help define sizes of all those outfalls that they put into that berm. And so, again, there's some infrastructure. That'd be something to think about. How would that work with the county in terms of, let's say you want it in the city, you're going to incorporate it. Unless there's some kind of an interlocal agreement, which I'm not sure what it would look like. It would be city infrastructure. So, yeah.
Now, would all those be in the event of the city annexing it? Or could it exist at its current?
Well, I don't know what happens if you incorporate, because I've always just worked with annexations, right? So when you go to incorporate, I guess that would be probably a topic that would be a big discussion. How would that work? And what do you want as a city? What is the county willing to do? Is it better to just leave, BB Warm as an entity that continues to work on projects? Some in your city, some in the areas outside of your city? That again is a question that we would have to address. If you're not familiar with VB Warm, we actually have an advisory committee. They meet quarterly now. Every quarter we have, similar to your meeting, where we have time for public comment. So if anybody's got a beef or they want something done or whatever, they can come in. We also do it online, so you can just log in if you want. And comment on our plans, comment on our projects, comment on your neighborhood drainage problems that you're extremely irritated about, which happens. And so that's another opportunity, I guess, to look at overlays in your potential, annexation or incorporation. How much do you want to do this? You're gonna have a fire district, could be the same thing. Sewer and water district kind of could be the same thing. So you may initially have a lot of interlocal agreements. And then kind of find your way along as you work towards maybe a more fully, functional city where you take on more of those things. So I don't think there's a roadmap that's clear for this process. I think the real question, is how well is the elected officials seeing this as a proposal? Are they supportive or not? I don't really know myself. I haven't really followed it that closely. But again, they're gonna be pretty critical in, not critical, but important in deciding, how this is gonna work out, what's best for the community and what's best for the county. And then is it a, immediate all at once thing, or is it a transitional thing?
Has anyone from CAI, the consultant group doing the feasibility study, reached out?
Yeah, I talked to one of their planners for quite a while, and we talked about a lot of this, is, so, it's a big question when you think about even maintenance of this stuff. I mean, some of these are pretty good sized systems. Some of them go off cliffs. I mean, there's some complexity to it. And again, we're struggling, with funding as a county. And when you think about counties, they're really a rural service provider primarily. And urban services aren't, what our focus is. You might have noticed that. The bottom line is we're not set up to manage cities. And we do have areas around Ferndale and around Bellingham, city of Bellingham, that are urbanized and out here. But our whole system, and we've got, 900 miles of roads and all of these larger, areas that don't require the kind of level of service that a city does. And so that's where there's sort of a mismatch, I think. So BB Warm has sort of brought in a higher level of service here because we do things like, these projects, but we also hire a person to run around Birch Point and make sure the systems are open and flowing during storm events, so there's less chance of, major slides based on overland flooding. So
We need it for sure.
Yeah.
So you are a department of the county?
We're a division of Public Works.
Okay.
And we're out of the Public Works Department. We are funded through the countywide flood tax partially. And we're also funded by the fees that are collected in the BB Warm district.
On our property taxes.
On the
yeah,
property
line items.
taxes.
Do you know what the breakdown of that is?
For,
The breakdown of what you get from the county and then the fees you get from us?
well, what the county funding through the countywide flood zone covers me, secretary, and some budgeting that we have, about 800 to 900,000. We do some, studies with it. It's not just for BB Warm. We have Lake Whatcom, which is another area that we do a lot of work in the areas that are in the NPDES area, which are basically those areas that are in the urban growth areas of Bellingham and Ferndale. And so in Birch Bay. So we have overlaps with our utilities, with the NPDES area. Some areas we don't have overlaps, you know, some areas in Ferndale and Bellingham. So we do have road funds for that. We have like 5 funding sources for the work that we do out of our program. We in Lake Whatcom, we have funding through REIT, the real estate excise tax, and our utility, and grants sometimes that do our capital projects. And we do water quality sampling, we do inspection of all the catch basins and the drainage systems.
We appreciate that. Those of us that have catch basins.
Yes, yes.
Because I've
And
seen
yours
them.
works pretty well, I
Yes,
think.
well, it's because you guys are keeping it clean, but I have seen them in years past where they're like fountains in your
Yeah.
front yard.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
water just shooting straight up in the air when we have a king tide and then the
Yeah.
water's coming from the upland.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been very exciting.
Actually, more than our whole area is still that,
Yeah.
because I've been to the meetings and I can't get anybody to work on getting those.
Well, we struggle with areas that are tidally flooded.
Yeah.
That's really hard. I mean, we have an area along Wooldridge there.
That's what I'm speaking.
Is that where you live? We're gonna actually put some wells in this year to just check the groundwater there.
Okay,
So we can kind of get a sense of just how high it is.
When it comes from 2 directions.
Yeah,
really.
well, when the tides are up and you get a good flood, I mean, a good flush out of Terrell Creek,
Yeah.
I've seen that thing fill up in like 2 hours. It's
oh,
amazing.
yeah, I live right on Gerald Creek.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ours, we have the big tube out in front on the drive. And I've only seen once where it backed up with the new system. And I was looking out the window when we had a king tide and everything was great, new berm, everything. And I look out and we're getting water in the front yard. And I'm like, okay, now what's going on? And I looked out at our catch basin, and you guys, you would not believe the size of these catch
Yeah.
basins. I mean, they're huge when they went in the ground. I couldn't believe it.
yeah.
And here comes seaweed and whatever up out of the catch basin, because at the highest part of the tide, there, the pressure must have been on the outflow, so it came in.
It's not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Right on that one, but it was so interesting to watch
Yeah.
because it just started up like this, seaweed
Yeah.
and the whole 9 yards, so I knew it was coming from the bay. So you know what I did? I'm gonna tell you what I did, but you probably won't. I had sandbags.
Yep.
And I ran in the garage and got 3 sandbags and put them on top. And so I just sent it up to the next.
Seaweed.
Yeah. Well, we had 3, we put, at the outfalls, we put on these grates. And the reason we put the grates on really is to keep the kids out.
Mhm.
They don't really need grates on the outfall. Yeah. So then what happened was, when they put in the new berm, how did this go? They ended up putting grates on everything. So now we have grates on, I think, almost all of them.
Yeah.
But what happened was it got this big rain and all the stuff came down and it stuffed the grates full so they wouldn't, there's no outfall. So it blew out. One project we just finished. And that's probably what backed you up. So we take them off every fall. Figure when it's about too cold to go up there. We're hoping for more barnacles because they get inside there and they're not very comfortable. So we're hoping that that's gonna be a deterrent, but as long as we remember to take the grates off, and if they're still on, there's the one on Beachway and the one on Cedar. And I think there's one in that park area in between. Those 3 and the one on Cottonwood have to come off. So if you see those on in November, call me. Because we don't want that.
Excellent.
So,
Is anybody gonna talk about the
Birch
blade
Point?
swap?
Birch Point,
The Birch Point. I noticed, I got a map out and I just did not realize that BB Warm, the ratepayers go all the way up around, the Simiamu area.
mhm.
is that?
Now,
right?
where, yeah, Yeah, and,
That's
and
what
that
you-
is that is the watershed up there. The characteristic watershed study.
Yeah.
That
Right.
is the watershed
Yeah, we
line up there.
included that.
Yeah. So we are paying, BB Warm is paying for water coming out of Semiahmoo, right? Because the water that comes over, you did the big drainage project.
Yes,
And where the water was just shooting over the bluff and erosion of the bluff and everything, and you did that project. That's coming off, going across the, what they want to use for their urban reserve now, take in for their urban reserve. So what happens there? We're paying, we've already paid out of BB Warm for that,
would be the
project.
same thing if, let's say they get that area.
Mhm.
And then when they go to annex, nothing changes till they annex it,
Okay,
right? And when they annex it, then we would go back and say, okay, what did we build in there? And is that, I can't remember if it's 10 years, I think it might be more than that now, they just changed it, but within 10 years or so of building it, there would be a residual they'd have to pay out.
what about future? For example, Semiahmoo now, or let's just say all of West Plain affects what comes down the slope into Birch Bay. It all drains down on
Right.
this. So there's a big question in my mind. Do they come in, do they come into BB Warm then and they all pay? Or do we just pay, when it starts to flood, then we have to build the projects up the hill?
Well, what we've talked about is whether or not we can get some sort of fee for their volume. We haven't done it yet. There's several projects proposed up there, whether they're built
The
in
cumulative.
any
effect.
time in the near future or not is yet to be seen, but that's a discussion that has to be, carried out because the question is what's fair, right?
Mhm.
And we dump water on Blaine too. I mean, the water goes where it went
Mhm.
and everybody takes each other's water. And there's a law that says, you gotta let the water go where it, always wet. So you can't just turn it back around and send it back up the hill. But when you change the character of the area, then you've got some responsibility to minimize the impacts. And so that's why we did that study.
Mhm. Yeah.
We identified exactly, to the extent you can, how much water would be generated and how it would flow. We did modeling of that. We showed that we have fairly large additions of water coming through the city. And if you think back to 21, when we had the flood, none of that was developed. It was just pasture or scrub or whatever. So you start to develop that and you have to consider that they're gonna put in, some level of detention. Because they're gonna have to, recreate a forested condition when they develop. So that means they have some level of detention for a certain period of time to meet a certain storm event. But if we have bigger storm events like we had, then we really have to consider, is that good enough? And so that's a big discussion that we're having now, that maybe 100-year event isn't enough for a stormwater pond. And they don't ever, necessarily work as designed, I shouldn't say that, but there's maintenance that sometimes doesn't happen. If they're plugged up or they're not, draining correctly, then they're gonna overtop. They're undersized, a lot of them are now because the old rules were different. So they're not as, maybe they're 50 years or 25 events.
Well, to tag on to that, for example, the one that basically failed in 21 and took out Deer Trail, right? And I mean, that's from that development up the hill.
Well, that was a
before there's
slide.
even anything new.
That was a slide on Deer Trail.
But
Because it was,
Inverness now coming in will be sending
Yes.
to Shintafa sub-basin, they'll be sending their water down.
Yeah.
My concern is when we listened to the weatherman today, he said, what, was it 22 that was the big year of the atmospheric river? There was like 5 atmospheric rivers.
It was 21.
One right after
Yeah.
another, and the bullet point was Birch Bay, which is really not a usual thing. But he said that, I raised my hand, I said, well, like, is that the 100-year storm? And he said, that's 5 times, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's 5 times the 100,
was-
that's just a few years ago.
It was 123% of the 100-year storm.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of that's what we designed to in BB Warm. You know, to try to have that extra, because there's calculation error, you never get it right, you do your best. And then there's, these events can be very concentrated. So they could be over that.
One of the things that bothered me, and I don't know whether this is something to be concerned about, but the Inverness HOA, it says in the document, will be responsible for taking care of the pond. Now, do you find that it would be better for the city? Because the city can just get rid of the liability by doing that and then give it to the HOA. And will do HOAs, I guess my question is, do HOAs really take care of ponds?
I think it depends, it depends on how old the HOA systems are. I think the early ones, they were put in and people didn't even know what they were.
Yeah.
And so they were like, what is that thing out there? So we do a lot of work with people like that. A lot of times they're too small anyway. Sometimes we look at it, so well, what we try to do is make them work as good as possible. But BB Warm is a entity. It's really a stormwater utility that has no regulatory authority, in the sense that we don't have the authority to go to a homeowner group that didn't take care of their system and say, you got 30 days to fix that, or we're gonna write a ticket, or we're gonna do this or that. That's not what we do. What we do is a lot of times help fix them and try to work with planning and other groups like, the city, to consider the implications of their, development impacts on people downstream.
Yeah.
Because they've got people downstream too. There's a property, I think in Boundary Ridge. They've been battling a long time because there's water and it's undeveloped from the county, but it goes through and they put it into a regular drainage system and it overwhelms it. And so they're getting a lot of flooding and some high bank erosion. So, it really is important to work together on projects. And when you become a city, you need to work with Blaine and with the county to make sure that we're all in sync about what you have planned. And so that you don't have a bunch of squabbling and lawsuits and, the kind of things that happen when you're not paying attention. And so it is important, I think, to think about how do you connect with your neighbors. I think what Gary was talking about building community, it's not just your own, it's your area. And if you know people, it's easier to talk with them about how this could be a real problem and how there might be some better solutions for them. By working with us, I'm more than happy to work with anybody, developers included, to, achieve our goal of getting water safely to the bay. So we've talked with the people that have Inverness, and I thought we were gonna do a project, but apparently I was wrong. Although who knows, maybe we still will, but it is on our BB Warm list. I think it's for 2029. It's about a $2 million project.
Coming down Shintacker then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a question, though. Are they in that district and paying in those fees, or they're in the city of Blaine? So BB Warm's gonna spend $2 million doing on a project caused by something in the city of Blaine that needs to be remedied for Birch
Well,
Bay.
it's bad already. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's bad already, And yet the project got approved by Blaine. And you're having to plan for the impacts. We know we're having to plan for the impacts. And $2 million of the fees that we're paying in are going to remedy something that's existing and caused by an area outside the fee area.
So here's one thing that will come up when you have this conversation.
Yeah.
So I go to the city and I say, you know, you guys are gonna dump all this water on us. And they say, no, we're putting in retention ponds. And these ponds are going to, you know, moderate the flows to meet pre-development flow rates. And we're gonna make them, and they weren't gonna, but we're gonna make them do 100-year storm events now. So that's great when it's a 100-year event, and they don't happen all that often. But if they start to creep up and maybe they're 20% bigger now, when that 100-year event is exceeded, everything's coming down the hill. And that's the problem we have. And so when we design projects, we usually, even before the big storm, we're adding 15 to 20% just because, you know, systems don't work right. Sometimes people don't take care of them. A lot of ponds just get full and overflow and don't do anything.
Plugged.
Yep. And so when we're spending your money, we don't want to go back and redo it in 5 years because we were a little shy of the mark. So we overbuild usually and hope for the best because, you know, the future is uncertain. And maintenance and, you know, to make somebody do anything, and I've worked in planning for a long time, is hard. You got to get people to back you up. And I was actually the planner for the city of Blaine for a year. And we had an example of a house that was derelict. It was owned by Canadians that bought it as an investment. It was just the property, but it was bad and it was an eyesore and everybody was mad about it. So I said, all right, we'll get rid of it. So they were after me and I said, but you know, I need a budget. I can't just go tear it down out of my pocket. So we wrote letters and they were willing to spend the money. And within 3 months, the thing was gone and we didn't pay a dime. But there's, you know, the requirement that you have to be willing to take on the enforcement. Otherwise, your rules are worthless. And I think that's a huge problem with land use and stormwater stuff, because if you think about, you know, if it ends up in court, you seem kind of like a silly thing for the judge when he's got murders and everything else to deal with. But in truth, you know, it's the only way to keep your community from falling apart. And it doesn't take a lot of enforcement either to get people to realize that, no, it's serious. They're not gonna fool around. And then you don't get jerked around as much. So a lesson for your incorporation file.
We're just over time, so I want to do kind of a last call for questions. I do have one, which is shellfish is real important to me. I like to be able to go clamming, and it seems like we're open or we don't have biotoxin warnings most of the time, whereas a lot of real developed places, you know, you just never go clamming. Does BB Worm do anything, or is that at all part of the mission, kind of with the water that we're draining into the bay, kind of caring about it from that perspective?
That's a really good question. When we first started working out here, we did it was a swale, treatment swale. It's just off Birch Bay Drive and just
Seaview.
Is it Seaview?
Right above you.
Yeah, I
you know that
I
one.
look at it all the time.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. But when we did it, and we put in one filtered cartridge ball up on Beachway. But Ecology said, well, we're not paying any money on that because we were looking for grants. Because we don't have any best management practice that's approved for fecal coliform. And that's what we're looking at, or it's E. coli now, but it's the same basic thing. So we did a project in Lake Whatcom on Austin Street called the Geneva Swale, and we used this new media in that because it was getting old and we were gonna replace it. And so one of the things we wanted to study was phosphorus, because that's a big deal for the lake, but also fecal, because I really wanted to get a system that would treat fecal that we could actually work with the state to get approved for, so we could show treatment out here, because we really can't get grants in Birch Bay because of that. So we did that, we sampled that as part of the project, and it did a really good job on fecal as well as phosphorus, but it also did really well on this 6 ppd tire dust treatment. And so we had King County come up and they're sampling another year. They did last year and this year again to see how well that's treatment's gonna hold up. So there's better media now, and if we can leverage these studies to get some grants that would help us cost share on some of these projects, then we could be putting in more treatment before it goes into the bay, especially in neighborhoods. You know, so you don't have tons of water coming through, you're treating very discrete areas. And so that's something that I think would really help down here. And just as an aside, BB Warm for a while was also a shellfish district. I don't know if you knew that. But that was when the shellfish areas were closed. And so we did a lot of work, you know, education mostly, and we've been sampling these outfalls for 15 years, I think. So we've got pretty good data on the water quality, and it's up and down quite a bit. But, you know, the bay is big, so it's not impacting, you know, the shellfish like it was. So we're pretty happy with that, but I think, you know, as you start to grow and get more people, especially with the tire dust, it's a tough one, and it's very toxic to fish. So finding the right mix of, you know, treatment media and putting them in the right spots could do a lot of good and keep that bay alive.
Yeah, weren't the swales in the berm, the swales that come off the road, weren't those made to try and help drain that?
Well, I
What's coming
think,
off the road?
I think they would be infiltrating, so they would limit just direct discharge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they had treatment media
Yeah.
in them.
But it wasn't just running right.
Right,
on
straight
onto
into the bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and roads are another issue that we really need to concentrate on.
And didn't you put I heard a $30,000 filter at the top of Beachway?
Yes.
On that fast flowing whatever?
Well, it actually picked up the stuff coming down firm,
Mhm.
mostly.
Yeah,
We struggle a lot when we put treatment in, you know, very large flows, because it dilutes the, you know, effluent in the water to the point that a lot of the treatment media can't treat it, because it's just too diluted. So, yeah.
Any last questions? Well, we are a little over time, so only good ones. Well, thank you so much for coming. We
Thanks
appreciate
very
it.
much.
This was super helpful.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. It is,
Move to adjourn.
Caprice, thank you.
Second.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thanks for everybody.